Hey, welcome to the Teresa Lusk Show. I am so excited that you are joining me today. Listen, I have a fabulous guest for you. He's been on with me before. It is Victor Avila running for Congress. And I want to introduce you to him once again because he is dealing with the issues at the border crisis. He is bringing truth. He is bringing some information to you that you will need to make important decisions for our country. So help me welcome Victor Avila. Hey, Victor, how are you?
Great to see you and great to be back with you, Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, there's so much that has happened at the border in these past few weeks, and you have been there at the very scene of what's going on. And I actually want to play just a short clip of some of the footage that you shared with us while you were there. So let's take a quick look so that our viewers know what was going on.
So here's another very unique situation on the border here. Yes, that's Mexico on the other side of this wall. But take a look at this wall. This is what the Biden administration has done when he ordered the wall to be stopped, the construction of it to be stopped. They had already taken these panels down, ready to build the Trump wall. And when Biden ordered it for it to go down, he told them, no, put back the old one back up, and this is what you see. But what's here to my right? The panels of the Trump wall that you and I already paid for, rotting away in the sun. This is the Trump wall, ready to go be built, but we can't because of politics, because of policy. Remember that.
All right, so that is the up close view of what's going on. Tell us a little bit about what was happening there. And this was before Title 42 was dealt with. So give us some insight here.
Yeah, so I was in El Paso almost for like a week and a half. The week before that I shot these videos, I got a good tour of the border. I also shot some videos of 2,500 illegals around the church in downtown El Paso, which blew me away. Let me tell you, I'm born and raised in El Paso. I had never, ever seen that in my personal life or my professional life, where illegals from all over the world were just gathered there. And by the way, not one Mexican national, not a Central American. They were all from South America, Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean, Haiti, and other places. That shocked me because of this administration is just starting to allow in. So what happened is they knew that Title 42 was going to be lifted, and so the surge began. The surge has already been ongoing, but it really came on strong a couple of weeks before, especially the week before it was lifted, and you had tens of thousands of people coming over. Now, not everybody was coming in and turning themselves into Border Patrol to be processed. The ones around the church had never been processed. They actually came in completely illegally, undetected, and then sought refuge there in the church. And so eventually I went back the next week when right before Title 42 was lifted, which the reason I was also there for is the Border Security Expo was being held by Border Patrol just down the street and less than a mile away, which was very ironic because you have the Border Patrol Security Expo being held and a bunch of illegal aliens right outside the building. And it almost didn't make any sense, especially what was being said at the Border Security Expo, that it was going to be over after Title 42. We're not going to have this. We're not going to have that. There were the chief of the Border Patrol said that he was not going to allow the illegal aliens to gather anymore, like we saw in Del Rio, 17,000 Haitians underneath a bridge. We're not going to have that. So if you paid a little bit of attention, he's right. But what does that mean is that they were just going to allow people to come in and not gather. So what they did is after these illegals around the church were there for over a week, they basically gave them a pass. And they ignored all immigration law. They went and handed them a paper with instructions on how to turn themselves in to the nearest area there, which is a few blocks away in downtown El Paso, to the nearest Border Patrol processing facility, and they did, because they weren't going to be arrested, they weren't going to be deported. And this is just a big dereliction of duty when it comes to the Department of Homeland Security. And it's Biden and it's Alejandro Mayorkas as secretary, and it comes down that way. But so then last week, Thursday into Friday, Title 42 is lifted. I'm standing there on the border highway right in front of the wall myself. There's a lot of media. There's a couple of gates that have been opened, gate 40, gate 42. And so what we're expecting is the large number of groups of illegals that are on the Mexican side to come through that wall. Well, it never happened. And we're waiting and waiting. I did some news hits there. I'm like, what's going on? Well, what they planned, and they didn't tell really anybody, even the border agents that had told me what was going to come and the processing that was going to occur, it didn't happen. They kept the people on the Mexican side until it was dark in the middle of the night. They sent buses across the wall and loaded them up with the cover of darkness and started shipping them out. And they're doing that as we speak. So they're doing it in the cover of darkness. They don't want the media to see it. There's a few reporters out there that sent up some drones that we were able to get some footage. Sure. And they're sending them, but get this, they're sending some of them to the port of entry right down the street and the international bridge, which I thought, what in the world? So they could come in through the port of entry legally by giving them a parole or a notice to appear. You cannot do that. But this administration is breaking every law. But one thing that they are doing is skewing the numbers and telling the American people, oh, those numbers dropped. They're not coming here illegally anymore. Well, because they're not counting them as illegal, even though they are. They're counting them as legal, and they're also busing them to the airport. They're putting them on airplanes. El Paso Airport, San Antonio Airport, I've been to both in the last week, full of illegals getting on airplanes. And it's a big cause, a big health hazard, and I'm going to tell you why. There was a chickenpox outbreak. There's a lice outbreak, scabies, flesh-eating bacteria, measles, dengue fever, syphilis, chlamydia. This is what they're bringing. And they're bringing it on buses. They're bringing it on airplanes that you and I get on. They're bringing it to the schools of where a lot of these unaccompanied children and family units are coming. And they're being placed in these schools and these buildings. And if you're telling me that people in the United States are not worried about that, they're starting to get worried. Even places like Chicago, you've heard about this.
Yeah. Oh, I actually watched a clip about that, and I thought, well, what a good thing now, because now these people who are promoting this and they're okay because they want to be the people of non-Americans to say, well, we're the people for humanitarian and of all races and trying to be inclusive. This is part of the message that's gone on, where they want you to believe that if you are anti-illegal immigration, then that means that you are not a loving individual and that you don't care. Which actually I was going to ask you about that, because how, you and I are people of faith. How does somebody who is of faith, because even myself, if I have somebody who is in need, regardless of the issue, I'm going to give help, assistance, care of some sort. But how do you reconcile that as people of faith and trying to keep your country safe and protected and looking out for the American people as well? Because, I mean, you've seen all the reports of veterans being kicked out of hotels so that they can house the illegal immigration, the people who came in through illegal immigration. And how do you reconcile?
That's a great question. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's where the left wants to hang everything now, that we're humanitarian. We're compassionate. Well, you know what? I'm a humanitarian. I'm compassionate, but I see the humanitarian and the compassion by securing the border and not putting these people in these conditions to begin with. Let me tell you, the conditions are not good for anybody, no human being. Feces, urine, They're sleeping on the sidewalk. And by the way, there's a lot of other issues going on there. The people around the church, they're partying all night. They're using drugs, a lot of prostitution. They're breaking into homes, committing crimes, and so they're not fully innocent here. But talking about they're human beings. Either way that you see it, they're going to require shelter. They're going to require food. They're going to require a lot of services, not just in the border towns and in Texas, but throughout the whole country. When they get there, they're not just going to automatically be absorbed into the community and they're going to be working an 8 to 5 job. That's not going to happen. So what are you going to do with him? What is the local community going to do with him? That's where the compassion comes in, because of course we want to help. We don't want the people to suffer, but we have to go a step further and say we need to prevent this. And it's very easily preventable. You will, if you secure the border and inform the people around the world that if you come to this country illegally, you will be detained and you will be prosecuted, and that will deter them from coming. Plus, you would actually be saving their lives, a lot of them. You will be saving the women and girls from being raped, from being drowned, from being assaulted, the men from being raped, the boys from being raped as well, extorted, robbed, beaten from the cartels and the corrupt Mexican government. That's true compassion, is dealing with it like, you know how they say, at the core problem, right? The root cause, as Kamala Harris wants to get down to the root cause. I'm giving you the root cause. And it's these other governments, and let's start with Mexico all the way down through Central America and South America. Why haven't they dealt with that and say, listen, we need to, the burden has to be shifted back on those countries. And say, you need to start taking care of your people. Look at what Salvador is doing, and cleaning up that crime of MS-13 gang members is commendable. So that's where I lie on the. But now we're at the point where you have to do something, and they're here.
Yes, right.
They
are here, and they are here. And I am seeing an uprising of churches and ministries starting to help the people. I'm with you. The two things can be true at the same time. You can be a humanitarian and you can be a person who believes in safety for your own country, the best for your own country. America is a very, very generous country, no matter what the American haters say. The truth is we are a very generous country. But my concern is why and what is the motive for the Biden administration to not be doing something about it? What do they win from this, Victor? I'm trying to understand that.
I've been talking about this a lot this week, and I think it's ultimately several things here. I think, yes, votes is one of them. I think they want to grant amnesty. And even if they don't get amnesty, they're going to grant these individuals some kind of a permit so they could get their hands on an employment authorization, which then grants them possibly a driver's license. And there you go. That's all they're going to need to vote. And they expect them to vote Democrat in the election. So that's a big one. But I think ultimately they're changing really the fabric of our country and these communities where, if you have people, the Black community in Chicago saying, wait a minute, we have a lot of problems here in Chicago. We have violence. We have our own citizens that require a lot of services and resources, and you're not giving it to us, but you're going to give it to the people that just got here. It makes no sense. See, this is when you start seeing that, and you and I have talked about this. It's not a partisan issue. It's not a left or right issue. This is a humanitarian issue. It is a constitutional issue. It's a law and order issue. They just arrested an Afghan, another Afghan on the terror watch list. We're over 200 in the last 2 years that we know about that have been interdicted, possible terrorists. How many have already come in here? And you know that if they're terrorists, they're here for a different reason and to possibly cause us harm. So you talk about public safety. These individuals and these communities in Connecticut, I got a report last week in Connecticut. There's an international theft ring, burglary ring from South America, from Peru and Chile in Connecticut, going into high-end homes, burglarizing them, taking all the stuff, they leave, and they come back and hit another neighborhood in different parts of New York and Connecticut. I mean, these people are like, wait a minute, we already have enough crime to deal with in our own country. Now we're having to deal with additional crime of these individuals. And I know not everybody's a criminal that comes over here.
Correct.
Not everybody is going to do crime, but a lot of times the cartels are now owning these individuals wherever they end up, and they're going to force them under slave conditions, either in the sex trade or the labor trade. And they're going to tell them, you will sell methamphetamine, you will sell fentanyl, or you will do XYZ for the cartel so you could pay back the debt. And that's going to be a big change. And you're going to see the sheriff's departments and police departments see all of these issues, the health department, the school systems, the hospitals. It's going to be a big impact.
Sure. I mean, I think you're already seeing a lot of it. I think I've heard a lot of people complain about how long it's taking them to go in to see their doctor and, things of that nature. Well, hello, this is where we are now. And so I think it's interesting. So I want to talk to you about the Secure the Border Act. Why is that important? And what is it that Americans need to know, both liberals and conservatives?
This bill is a good bill. It's the Secure Act is HR 2, which was absorbed. The bill that was originally was HR 29 with Congressman Chip Roy is the one that authored it, and he sent it to me. I reviewed it. It's a great bill. It's an excellent bill. And you know what the bill does? It asks, and it's kind of funny because sometimes you have to kind of just take back and take a breather, because we're doing things in this country you think this is uncalled for, but it's called for because of the conditions that we're in. So this bill is basically telling the federal government, you have to do your job at the border. You have to arrest people for coming in illegally. You have to detain them. You have to stop, catch, and release, which is the biggest one. You have to follow our asylum criteria, which means that if you don't qualify for asylum, you don't come in, if you're not persecuted by your government. And I'm thinking, well, all of this already exists. Why do we have to put it all together into a separate bill? But this is where we're at, that we have to pass legislation. But let me tell you the political side of it, because I agree with you. This is, by the way, not one Democrat voted for it. Not one. Wow. And it tells you something, because it's supposed to be about the protection of Americans. It's supposed to be about upholding our laws, upholding and protecting our sovereignty, defending our Constitution. Doesn't matter what party you are. I would believe that, I guess, if I was a Democrat too. But the elected officials just will not do it. And remember, the elected official is supposed to be there voting according to what the people want. Not what the party wants and not what the individual politician wants. It's what the constituents want. Well, none of them voted for it. But here's the politics end of it. The Republicans basically surprised the Democrats. The Democrats are always playing chicken. They're always playing, they're bluffing. They're not going to do it. The Democrats are in shambles. They're not going to coordinate. They're not going to come together. Well, guess what? They did. They came together. They passed an incredible bill. It could have been better. Let me tell you right now, by the time it went through the process, it's not the original HR 29. They took out some provisions and changed some other things. Okay. But it's a good bill. It's a good start. And now they're attaching that to the debt ceiling negotiations. And even though the Republicans are even increasing the debt ceiling, and we want some cuts here and some cuts there, and the Democrats still will not budge. They passed the Border Security Act, but we're here. It's not going to pass the Senate. And even if it did pass the Senate, Biden will more than likely veto it.
Sure. Were there some Republicans as well that didn't vote for it?
Two. There was two Republicans. I don't recall the names off the top of my head, but the incumbent that I'm running against, he voted yes for it, but he was forced to vote for it because he had already killed HR 29. He was solely responsible for killing HR 29, and he was proud of it. He sent out a tweet with the Kill Bill movie poster that he killed the bill. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you represent this is the District 23 that I'm running for. This is the number one issue, not just in the state of Texas and Ground Zero, but the rest of the country is asking you to please do something to help us. But even Republicans will not do it, and I want to change that. That's why I'm running. I want to get rid of all that. I really want to take things back to fundamentals. Like I just said, I'm there. Use me to do the job. Send me to Washington, and I will be the extension of your voice. I'm okay with that. I just need to be placed in that position, not for the party, but the power back to the people.
Yes, and that's why I asked you if there were any Republicans who didn't vote for it, because I'm with you. I very much am a conservative Republican. I vote Republican, but I'm into really expecting our politicians, our government officials to do the best for the people. We need to restructure that. We need some honest people who are actually going to represent all of us.
That's right.
And so with that, actually, I have a question about the governor of Texas, Governor Abbott. What role is he playing in the border crisis? Is he doing what Texans really want him to do? What are some things that could be done that if Governor Abbott was watching this, that you could tell him, hey, we need to do this,
Let me tell you exactly what's going on. I wish he would do more and would do it more consistently. So while I was in El Paso, they actually send there's a lot of DPS trooper presence, a lot more than Border Patrol at the wall and all that. But at the same time, I'm getting the reports from my friends that are down in Brownsville, and he started blocking. He started repelling the illegals coming up from the river in Brownsville, Texas, from Matamoros to Brownsville. And they put up the razor wire. There's only certain areas that could come up from the river. And they blocked. The National Guard and DPS troopers blocked. And I'm thinking, this is great. We've been waiting for this for years. We've been asking for this under the Declaration of Invasion to repel the people, not take possession, just tell them, go back. And you could see the aliens were confused. The cartel on the Mexican side was confused. What do you mean they didn't let you up? That's right. The state of Texas didn't let them up. But it wasn't happening in El Paso. So I'm in El Paso talking to friends in Brownsville, like, why is it inconsistent? Why isn't it across the whole state of Texas? If you're going to repel them in Brownsville, you should repel them in El Paso and in Hudspeth County and Del Rio and Eagle Pass. But that didn't happen. They repelled them for a little bit, maybe a couple of days, and then that's it. So it looked good. It felt good for just a little bit. I want to see that consistency 100% of the time to no one comes in. If you put that National Guard on the line by the river and deny access to this country, something has to change. And not for one day. I'm talking about for the next 2 years. That's what we do. We shift personnel for 2 years. That's a surge. I wrote about this in my book. And I'd rather see the surge happen from the federal government, but that's not going to happen. Right. So why not have it done by the state? Now, if that would happen for 18 months to 2 years, it's going to stop. You're not going to see, you'll always have illegal aliens trying, but you're not going to see the tens of thousands of people. By the way, there's a lot of them coming. There's like 40,000 in Tapachula right now. And there's several thousands, tens of thousands spread around the border. But that's the way the cartels want it. Remember, they're not going to send 40,000 anymore at one place. They're going to spread them out. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Wait, send 10,000 more. And this is all by design. And so the Biden administration is like, okay, great. So we'll go down in Brownsville and down in El Paso. Eagle Pass, which was very active last year, kind of died down because the cartels stopped sending them from there. Guess where they started showing up again yesterday? Eagle Pass, Texas, at a property where I know the private property owner there. Here they come again. Why? Because they blocked them a little bit in Brownsville. So let's go back to Eagle Pass. This is why you have to secure the entire border 24/7 for 18 to 2 years. And then you would really disrupt the cartel activity. We haven't even talked about the drugs, the fentanyl, the meth, all of that. Sure. You would really send a message And the message really, not just to the bad guys and the other countries, to our own administration, to the cartel, to the other Biden administration, saying, listen, we don't care what you do at the federal government. We're going to defend the Texas sovereignty in our state as well. But I haven't seen that from our governor.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I hope he will rise up to take some stronger actions. I know it's a hard job, running the great state of Texas. I love Texas. I'm a Texan. I just think it's the greatest state, ever. But we do need to take care of things. And one of the reasons why that worries me is because in future elections, I mean, as you know, the Democrats would love Texas, and that's very concerning to me. So we need a governor who's actually standing up for the people, being strong, maybe even mirroring some of the President Trump's policies. I think that would really help in this time. What are some things that you want to leave our Texans with? What are some last minute words that you want to share about what's going on? Because you actually were there. I saw the videos. It was heartbreaking, really. But what are some things you want to share here last minute as we wrap up?
Well, I want people to understand that we do have hope, that we're here. And because we're here, and this is our faith, and this is my faith speaking, that there's always a solution. If you're alive, there's a solution in life to every single problem. And I see hope, and I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist, and I want to tell the people that we will do something, but we can't sit on our couch and scratch our belly and expect for it to happen. You have to get involved. You have to understand and meet your representative at city council, at the county commissioners. By the way, these people are going to have a huge decision to make. They're already starting to make them around the country in these smaller counties around Texas. The illegals are everywhere, and a lot of them do stay in the state of Texas. And you're going to have these commissioner courts and these school boards having to make decisions based on, are they going to base it on the taxpayer American, or people that just came here from another country that more than likely don't even want to assimilate. They don't want to be Americans. They just want the fruits of this country to be taken care of. But you're an American, I'm an American, get involved. Get involved a little bit. Be aware of what's going on. If you ask people to give you the name of the representative, they have no idea who represents them. But you should know the name. You should have their phone number, because that's what they're there to do. They work for us. Let's change that mentality. They're there to do the work of the people, and that's why I'm running. I figured, I talk about this all the time. Well, I'm gonna step up, and I'm gonna run, and I'm gonna do what I do and bring all the experience that I have internationally, nationally, in Washington D.C. to bring some real changes. But I want people to understand that yes, it looks dire and it looks dark, but we are resilient and we will overcome, because the Constitution has been this way, and the United States was built on this foundation that is so strong that we must go back and embrace it.
That's great. Thank you so much for leaving our viewers with some hope. I think we all need hope. And for those of you who are watching, we are in a hard place. America is being shaken up in so many ways. I mean, I think that our current president, as Victor said earlier on, he'd like to change the very foundation of America. And can I tell you that the foundation of America, like it or not, those people who say, no, it's not, is faith first. And faith sometimes has limitations, not because it doesn't love, but because there are boundaries, there are laws, there are things, even for your own well-being. There is a reason why we can't just, get into our vehicles and just go into another nation or fly to another nation and just say, I'm here. There's a reason for that. And so I just pray that through this and through these interviews, Victor, people will begin to see that what you're doing and what you're standing for is not that you are a racist. It's not that you don't like people from other nations. It's that this is loving people. It's by protecting them. It's by putting a stop to the things. And that's because you were there. You were at the border. You were an agent. You saw some of the most horrific things. So you're not just saying this because you're just some man who follows the white man's politics. You are actually a Latino who wants to see people safe, but you also want to see your country prosper. And I thank you so very much for all of your service. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me back.